hello, 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 hello. Hello, hello, hello. Hi, thank you for saying hello. I appreciate you. All right, welcome. How's you feeling so far? How's everyone feeling so far? Yeah? Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. I need that energy. I'm going to reciprocate that energy. We've still got people coming in, so I'm obviously stalling for time. But that's pretty much how this panel is going to run. I'm going to be stalling for time. No, just kidding. I can start? Okay, wonderful. I didn't want to start. I was having fun saying hello. So hi, everybody. Welcome to our Reimagined Leadership panel. I feel like I'm going to end up with a kink in my neck because I keep looking over here at everyone, but I'm so excited to have this panel and these panelists and be your moderator for today. My name is Morenike Dosu. Good job. And I am our Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at DreamWorks Animation. I am also a part of the steering committee for the CJCII. Ooh, how many of y'all know what that is? Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and provide some foundation. So, in 2021, Arts for LA introduced the Creative Jobs Collective Impact Initiative. So the Can I project? All right, I'll try. The Creative Jobs Collective Impact Initiative. Now, how many people know what that is? Okay, I was just checking. Okay, yay, we've increased by at least 50%. I would almost say 200% now. So the CJCII is a cross-sectoral campaign that oh my goodness, I've already stumbled.
You're doing great.
Am I? What is this word? Convinces? Convinces? I'm just going to say it brings together a steering committee made up of leaders from government, nonprofit organizations, business, research, education, philanthropy, and labor to achieve 3 primary goals by 2030, which are to, 1, create parity between regional population demographics and creative workforce representation, i.e., what does LA County look like, and can we get that in the creative job sector? All right? 2, establish a sector-wide medium entry-level wage that is at or above the region's living wage as determined by MIT's living wage calculator. Mouthful, but in other words, can we have a recommendation on the living wage, right? To be in the arts. And then 3, build 10,000 creative sector entry-level job placements centering youth and adults from historically underrepresented communities. And I love that part about the and adults, right? Are you all still able to hear me okay? Okay, great. No, not really. Okay, we'll try the mic one more time. That's better? I appreciate the feedback. Okay, so as we continue to address gender and race disparities in the creative economy, Arts for LA believes it's essential to reimagine traditional leadership models by sharing decision-making power and harnessing the diversity of the region to build a more reflective and representative workforce. All right? So today, we will hear from some of the women on the CJCII, now we all know what it is, right? Steering Committee, who are leading the charge for shifting the narrative, removing barriers, and increasing opportunities from historically underrepresented communities. So again, my name is Morenike Dosu, and I'm a part of this through our DreamWorks, my role as a diversity, equity, inclusion for DreamWorks Animation, but I've been chasing being a part of this creative sector since I was 17. And I feel very, very fortunate to be a part of this, but I also think I can't draw. So how do we start to expand? Okay, I know I can't draw, thank you for laughing. but how do we start to expand, right? How we bring people into this sector. That's one of the reasons why I was interested and so grateful to be a part of this collective jobs and creative initiative. And so with that, I would love to turn it over to our panelists to introduce yourselves and maybe just really briefly like the why you're a part of this creative sector or how.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Latoya Cooper. She, her pronouns. I come from the LA County Youth Commission. I am a commissioner that represents the 2nd District. So that is Supervisor Holly Mitchell's district. And I come from, of course, South Central LA, born and raised. So for me, how did I get a part of this great CJCII committee? Well, it's because of my line of work. I've been an advocate for young people and their injustices in child welfare and juvenile justice, like since I was about 17. But now for me, being a part of this youth commission, I am able to, I'm also chair of our youth engagement committee. That is the committee where, like it says, I engage with the youth, but also engage with the community. So I host listening sessions and I host events for our young people. And for me, that is my way to bring my creative nature, which is my love for the arts, into the community and into the spaces where young people can find a way to heal that's different than the norm. So that's kind of how I brought myself into it. But I also come from being a creative writer. That's something I let go and I put under the bed for a second because, of course, life be lifing. And we got to keep going and we got so much to do and so many responsibilities that sometimes your passion gets pushed aside. But now I'm in alignment with my passion and with my advocacy, which is all in alignment with the drive and like where I'm trying to go in these next couple of years. So it makes sense for me now.
That's right, you can snap at that, or clap at that, or tap at that. Oof, alignment, oof, go ahead.
Hello, hola everybody. My name is Patricia Huerta. Please feel free to call me Pati or Patty. My pronouns are she, her, ella. Born and raised in East LA. Woo woo. And also having the privilege and the accessibility to also lived in Guadalajara, where part of my family is from. And I am in education and I am also an artist. I'm a professor at UC Riverside currently, where I teach dance, where I get to teach my cultura, which is I get to primarily teach Latin social dance forms. And, you know, all the amazingness of working with younger folks that really want to get into the art sector, create a profession, move around, etc. I am also an artist in the field and a curator. I have a collective called Primera Generación Dance. We've been together for 8 years. And we do a lot of community-based work in LA County and in Riverside. Because we all are first generation Mexican American from different parts of Mexico, and we were born in Riverside. So a lot of our work really stems in how can we pay artists equitably, how can we open our doors and create accessible, performance opportunities for not just the artists, but also the families, todas las familias, right, that maybe had never had an opportunity to actually view dance, understand it, etc. And then through Primera Generación, the 4 of us also run a nonprofit called Showbox LA, which has been in existence for now about 13 years. And the actual founder was Meg Wolf. She eventually in 2020 pandemic made a shift. She practically, asked us if we wanted to take over. And we said, yeah, what a great opportunity for us to actually reimagine what this nonprofit could actually provide and do for our communities, especially folks of color, right? Artists of color that have never had the opportunity or that maybe their art is not fully recognized yet because they haven't gone through the system, right? And so that's a little bit of about where I am. I'm super passionate about what I do just because art dance, etc., that has been such a healing vehicle for me since I can remember. And so I do come from, my family, they are artists. They're a lot of musicians. But also this was not allowed for me. So then I also found ways of how can I connect to, whatever was being offered in K through 12, if there was a dance class, if there was anything free, I'm like, how can I attach to it? You know what I mean? So creating these programs and being part of these programs that actually are out there, they're so special because it's so needed. They're so valuable. And essentially, folks that go into the field, they need a little bit of healing. They need to be seen. They need to be loved. They need to be taken care of. They need to express themselves. So that's why I'm in it. And also thank you to you all for being here and to our panel.
Thank you, Patty.
Thank you. That's beautiful. Hi, everyone. My name is Kelly LoBianco, and I'm the director of the LA County Department of Economic Opportunity. You may be wondering why a public servant is here on the arts panel. But our department is a new one in LA County. We focus on economic and workforce development. We were created by our Board of Supervisors during the pandemic, looking towards a more equitable economy and a future of work. So the county hadn't had a department like ours before. And we're really all about a couple things. We're about building a more equitable economy, driving inclusive and sustainable growth, and creating opportunity and mobility for all LA County residents. That means our youth, that means our adult workforce, that means our small businesses, and that means our major industries. We all know that the creative economy, our entertainment sector, is the capital of the world, generates billions and billions in revenue and labor, wages, puts hundreds of thousands of people to work, puts tens of thousands of businesses to work all the time. For us, we look at this sector as a generator of opportunity. We see all of you and our partners as engines of our economy. And so for us, it's very natural to look at the entertainment sector as an area of focus for us. And based on the mission and vision I just laid out for you, we're thinking about how do we drive our resources to those that need them most, and how do we drive growth in the region that really is inclusive and sustainable. We are not here for just unbridled growth, but the right kind of growth. And so our department and me, myself, we're very excited to be part of this steering committee about being part of the Arts for LA community and thinking about how we are deploying policy, how we're deploying programs and services and resources that lift up our art sector. So I have a lot to learn from you all and my colleagues here, and that's why we're here today.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Stephania Ramirez, Executive Director of the Morenike Foundation. And my story is a little different. I came here, I was born in Mexico and came here when I was 8. I grew up in Pico Union, so really an Angelina by heart. And when I first came to this country, it was very hard. It was very lonely. And I found a lot of solace and a lot of inclusivity and belonging in museums. I discovered theater, I discovered dance, and they just allowed me that space to, fit in, to experience, to feel, to connect with others, despite, again, not even speaking English. And then ultimately to dream. So fast forward, I went to college, and I remember telling my parents, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and everybody said, oh, you're a great writer, right? So law school. But I remember thinking I want to go in actually something with museums, something around that. And my parents were like, there's no money in the arts. Like, you cannot do that. We need you to have a job after this, right? So now I get to be the executive director of the Morenike Foundation, where we center all of our strategies around supporting and amplifying art organizations across the county. Really with an intentionality of supporting those that have historically been undercapitalized communities. And so part of why I'm here and part of why I'm a steering committee member of this collective is because I really do believe that it's important that we find a way to to do outreach, to really showcase how many more across the county that look like me, right? There's such diversity. That they're also have the opportunity and know of the millions of opportunities that are out there to make a good living in the arts, in the entertainment industry. So very excited to be here this afternoon.
Thank you. And so I appreciate you all taking the time to kind of share with us. And I know it wasn't one of the questions that we had, but I think it's important for us all to pause and kind of reflect on the why we're here. Why are we showing up for the State of the Arts Summit? And also, why are we on this steering committee? So again, thank you all for sharing that story. I also want to thank you all for submitting your questions. I know that a number of people submitted questions in terms of the registration process, and those questions helped guide us in terms of what we are going to be talking about today. So top of mind, straight off the bat, we saw the theme, and we had the question of, as the field examines and re-examines traditional power structures, I think it would be really, really helpful if we further define what shared leadership looks like. And I'd love to ask you, LaToya, what does shared leadership mean to you?
Honestly, when you say shared leadership, the key word in that is shared, because one thing we have a problem in our world is unity and sharing. It's a lot of barriers with race, religion, identity. People have all these ways to identify you or to separate you, but it's not a lot of unity and to say, what are our commonalities? What do we have alike? So for me, shared leadership is understanding that you are coming from a field where someone may look like you, but they may not have the same ideas as you, the same vision as you. They may not have the same alignment, but it's okay, because their differences and your differences makes a great solution down the line. Everyone has a tangible and a very important role to play in any and everything. So I think shared leadership kind of identifies that, like, what is your role and what do you bring, and the severity of what you bring, and how can this work in alignment with what I'm doing or what I'm bringing, instead of it being you're trying to come in and take my job, or you're trying to come in and replace me. No, maybe I'm trying to come in and help improve something that I heard or I experienced that was difficult. Maybe the way the process worked it didn't make sense for a couple people, and from experience, I want to tell you how this can be better. So sometimes shared leadership is a reality check, and to people as well, making sure you understand that just because someone is asking to share space and share identities and share like platforms doesn't mean they're trying to control. We have to get to a point where we understand that we all have a role, no matter how big, how small, but it's kind of like we have something to bring to the table no matter what. The table's very big. Obviously, look at our world, look at our county, like it's a very big table. So if we kind of take on what everyone brings and put it in the right place and align it where it's supposed to go, I kind of feel like that's how everyone gets an opportunity to lead, because they lead in their comfort and what they desire and what makes them feel suitable. That's how leadership is supposed to be, given the opportunity with no questions, no strings attached, and let it flow. And then you see organizations coming on, and new organizations and new opportunities. Like me being a part of a youth commission, I took this opportunity like, oh, they just want to hear my story again. That's how I assumed it was going to be. And then I came into a role where I was appointed by my fellow commissioners to be a chair of our youth engagement committee. And then they say, this is your committee. You guys decide what you want to do with it. And we as a collective were able to decide, we want to talk to our young people. We want to talk to our community. We want to know what's wrong. What are your barriers? What are your problems, and how can we fix them? And with that, we're able to heal, because we're able to throw arts in it. We're able to feel like, hey, what is something that makes you feel good? And all the surveys and all the questions, it all came back to I'm an artist and I can't express myself. That's always the bottom line. I don't know how to express myself. I don't have a platform to express myself. So why not give these platforms to not only heal, but heal the world in small little ways that no one really pays attention to. So including all that kind of is shared leadership to me.
I love that. Thank you so much. And you mentioned a collective, and Patty, I know you have a collective as well. Do you mind? What does shared leadership look like to you?
Yeah, of course. Thank you for sharing that, Latoya. So in our collective, for 8 years, we actually run on what we call more of a horizontal leadership. So we don't have an artistic director. We've never had an artistic director. There's pros and cons to that. I won't lie, okay? But definitely the pro is that we're all involved and we all get to really share our strengths, right? And not just the strength, like we're talking 8 years ago, we had different strengths, right? And so as human, you just keep evolving. As an artist, you keep evolving, right? So then it's like you're always kind of keeping tabs, checking in, right? To see where you are at, what you can offer. And then, you know, there's 4 of us, so obviously, you know, if I'm sharing something, then the other 3 will support that vision, etc. There's a lot of communication that has to be involved, a lot of honesty as well, a lot of reality checks as well, right? But in essence, knowing that everybody has a place, right? That everybody's voice will be heard in order to make this thing, this manifestation happen, right? So that has worked really well for us, and now the 4 of us actually have been able to bring that towards every institution that we work for. We're all professors at some university in the world, and so bringing that forward is really refreshing to the community that we work for, because in essence, you know, in education and much like other places, you don't work in that way, right? You have a leader and then eventually everybody has a role, right? And you cannot step on anybody's toes, even if you are knowledgeable and aware, right? And I don't think that that should be the way that we need to continue moving, right? In the art sector, in any sector, period, right? Because I feel like everybody has strengths and knowledge, and even if they're similar, shared, right? Then you can really create a smaller collab within that larger collaboration, yeah? So even changing wording like, you know, collective to company makes a gigantic difference, right? Artistic director to, you know, equal leadership, right? Etc. Like that really goes a long way. That's how we've been running.
Because language matters. So, right, that shift from company to collective, that's a big shift. They both start with C, I know that much, but they mean totally different things. And so I appreciate that, and I'm going to turn it over to you, Kelly. As we continue to build bridges in the creative sector, what narratives do you think need to be reevaluated and transformed to better represent the diversity and inclusion, and I would almost say shared leadership model we strive for?
Thank you for that. I might dabble a little into shared leadership before going into that as well, just because of the nature of the organization, the beast that I work for, right? I'm part of a major bureaucracy. LA County government in and of itself is 38 departments, 120,000 employees, I think a $46 billion budget. It's just massive, and it operates in a very strict way in many cases. And so as we're developing a new department, and the ethos of our department is really thinking about how do we disrupt, how do we deliver a public good, how do we do that within a complex system that has prevented access for so long? How do we do that in a system that has perpetuated harm in many cases through systemic discrimination and disinvestment? and how do we start to build trust with community? Because I think if our end goal really is that public good has to be felt by our communities. And so, through that lens, we've started to think about what does it mean where our goal is not just jobs or growth or money in a department that's centered around economic development, but how do we think about community impact and well-being and good governance? Like, what does trust mean in our communities? And so we think a lot, as we're sort of like building this new space, how do we start to integrate that kind of shared leadership? And it gets to the question, which is, one, we actually have to know our own value proposition and how we fit into the broader ecosystem. We don't make change alone, make change in partnership. And so I think when you think sometimes about how government approaches shared leadership, it's around sort of organizing groups and communities, and we were discussing this for feedback, but how do we turn that notion on its head and think about how to create shared agency, shared power, and shared impact, and make sure that those are driving forces in the way we do business, which means that we need to think about how we design together. Actually, I would even take it a step further back, like define the public good together, and then design how we approach that public good, how we deliver towards that public good, and how we qualify the impact and the success of that public good with community. And it's not an easy thing to do, but I do think we're trying in new ways in LA County. One thing that I'll sort of like plug here, because it's an interesting and emerging thing, and I want folks in the arts to think about it, and certainly want Arts for LA to be part of it in our steering committee, is something called the Community Economic Resilience Fund, which is a state initiative. It's $600 million. And the goal is really, how do you think about regional economic development, growth, recovery in a way that shares leadership? And so there's hundreds of organizations that have come together that might focus on a geography or population or sector or shared goal, who are going to ideate on like what we need. Like, what does it mean? Do we need housing in this area? Do we need community spaces? Do we need parks? And how do we sort of inspire the kind of development in our region that we want places like the Department of Economic Opportunity to actually invest in? And we've created, sort of with community, a steering committee that's led by 80% community leaders, not by, your traditional movers of money, like our department, right? Like, we're in a listening posture. And so I think that that's really important. And it's a long way of getting to the question, which is, I think some of the ways that a department like ours or a bureaucracy or government needs to think differently is that and in an economy where capitalism rules, right? Like, I think there's oftentimes this impression that the people need to change, not the institutions that need to change. And so we reflect a lot on how do we take on the burden so our community doesn't? How do we advocate to employers and industry and ask them to shift instead of sort of our workforce and communities, ask them to change? And how do we all sort of set a shared goal and start to adjust? Because I think there's also this idea that you always have to, in economic development, in growth, you have to be thinking about the bottom line, but a more diverse local workforce that really thinks about community and really thinks about what shared value could look like is good for the bottom line. And there's analysis that you could prove that out, but I just think that there is that sort of ethos change that needs to happen in the public sector. And I'm inspired by being in spaces where that's how people already live and breathe, and how do we bring that and infuse that into the public sector?
Thank you so much for that. You said the C word, capitalism.
Oh, I was like, which one? Oh no.
And of course that made me think cash rules everything around me. But actually, I do want to, I know we've got about 5 minutes left, and I'd love to hand it over to you for the last question, which is really looking at that intersection of your work and the CJCII Steering Committee. What challenges do you anticipate as a part of this effort?
Yeah, I think, you know,
Sorry, can you? Yeah.
I think the arts can be, just when you say arts, I meet so many people where that whole concept can be very intimidating, right? And I get the question of, oh, wow, what arts training do you have? What's your background? What school did you go? And so I think we also need to work on reconstructing and redesigning the definition of artist. What does that really mean? What does that mean specifically to our county, our region? We're very diverse, right? And then also, I think holistically, just even hierarchical modes of, you know, there's this high art, there's community art, like, we really need to rethink that model. And I think, Kelly, to your question, I think just a lot of the work that we're here to do is around pathways, really being able to showcase and provide a really robust sort of outreach network, really develop a robust outreach network that can rethink how we are illustrating a lot of the opportunity that's out there, and how coming together we can collectively redesign sort of what's missing, who's missing at the table, and how do we propel that. So the foundation's very eager to also support initiatives like this around workforce development, but also more holistically around redefining who's at the table.
Thank you so much. Well, I think we might be at time. I'm looking at my timekeeper. No, we have how many minutes? 2 minutes. 2 minutes. 2 minutes. All right. So in 2 minutes, I would like to know, you know, as we close this, as we think about shared leadership, as we think about this collective and the creative job sector, you know, how do we continue to unify and foster They don't want me to say collaboration, but in one word. Who wants to jump in first? Popcorn it.
I have to use 2 words.
Okay, go.
Or 3, maybe
Look,
3. I'm
disruptor.
sorry.
Disruptor, that's
say,
my
like,
word.
You got to break the chains. You give the opportunity. That's all I'm saying. Break the chains and give the opportunity.
That's
you see
3
a difference.
words.
Hey,
All right, one
it's
phrase.
valuable. They need to know it.
Thank you.
Make space and surrender.
Be open to thinking about things in a different way.
Collaboration is iterative and reflective.
Ooh. All right. With those, see, okay. She over here saying CC at me. But with that, I do want to say thank you. Thank you to this panelist for your honesty, your transparency, and your thoughts and your feedback on how we, again, reimagine leadership. I hope you all are able to take away some nuggets of information that you can apply in your day-to-day as you think about the state of arts in Los Angeles. Thank you so much for being here.